Aaron, I want to talk to you about the MiSTer.
Oh my.
Uh, so you are an FPGA owner. You
I
have
am.
an UnAmiga,
That's right.
and I have recently become a MiSTer owner, and so I thought we'd talk a little bit about our experiences with both machines, maybe to help people that might be on the fence about whether the MiSTer or the UnAmiga might be right for them.
Okay,
So
and I definitely want you to go into the how quickly you made your decision and then got the item too, please.
I think about a week ago we recorded Ask the Amigos, and
Yeah.
Paul, aka Hermsky, asked, "What's your opinion on the MiSTer? How close are you to getting one?" And I recall myself saying, "I don't really see the need to get a MiSTer.
Yeah.
I'm pretty happy with the Xbox and all my other emulation stuff." And then about 2.5 days later, I bought a MiSTer. Now, what is a MiSTer? Okay, so you might have seen, pictures of people with MiSTer setups online, and these things look like, I mean, the MiSTer is not a big unit, but it's sort of chunky. It's sort of like the size of like a small brick. You'll see people that have these setups, and it's important for you to realize, dear listener, if you are not a MiSTer owner, that this does not have to be your MiSTer setup.
Right.
Okay. I'm here to tell you about the easiest and the cheapest way to get in the door with the MiSTer. And it's all thanks to our buddy, Rob Flack O'Hara. Okay.
Right.
So I was listening to his episode on the MiSTer, and he was talking about what he would do differently, with the MiSTer. And he's like, well, you get this IO board on the top, and it comes with some neat buttons, and it comes with the fan and all this stuff, and it comes with the VGA out port. And he's like, but I don't really need that. And I was like, well, maybe I don't really need that either. Bam, $50 saved. And then the other thing is it's got this USB, the special USB hub that goes onto the bottom. Okay. What is it? It's a USB hub.
Yeah.
Okay. Except for the fact that it costs 50 freaking dollars.
Nope.
Do I need that? No. $50 saved. Bam. Okay.
Let me ask you a question. We're looking at a MiSTer here. If you look on the screen,
Right.
is that top thingy with the VGA card? Is that the thing you don't have?
That's the thing I don't have.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay.
And all that thing does really is give you VGA, right? As far
It gives
as I know.
it gives you VGA out, and it
some
also
buttons.
gives you hardware buttons.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Now, let me tell you what I did. I went over to digikey.com. Okay, this is a site that doesn't sell. They are not a MiSTer site. They are an electronics parts store site.
I see.
Okay, and I ordered the DE10 Nano kit. Okay, this thing costs the same as what most resellers sell the bare board for. Okay, and inside this kit, what you get is this. I'm about ready to hold it up to the screen.
All right,
okay?
I got you.
You get the board, you get a case, you get two USB cables, you get an 8 gig SD card for the same price that a lot of quote unquote MiSTer sellers sell just the bare DE10 Nano board for. Okay. So you can, by just spending, I think this thing was $135 on DigiKey, you can have a MiSTer. You don't need anything else. Don't let anybody tell you that you need something else. You don't need anything else as long as you have an HDMI output to your monitor, as long as you're hooking this thing up to a TV or something like that.
And so the total price just for that was what'd you say again?
I think it was $135.
Okay.
Okay.
That seems very reasonable, Bo, to me.
Now, what you can't do is run all of the cores.
Right.
Okay. You can run a bunch of the old computer cores. You can run a bunch of the arcade cores.
Yeah.
But to run more advanced computer cores, you're going to need more RAM. Okay. Now, this is the part of the purchase that I splurged on. Okay. I splurged on getting more RAM than I probably needed. I got the 128 meg board, which will allow me to run Neo Geo cores. If you don't care about Neo Geo, and it's not even all the Neo Geo cores, it's just some of them. If you don't care about that, then you don't need the 128 meg RAM. If you just want to run old computer stuff, like 99% of the time that I'm going to be using this thing, you can get by with the 32 meg RAM.
Show us the RAM. Can you point to it on there?
So this is the RAM right here.
That little
and the
gimmick
way
right there?
that this works is this just slots under the board. You don't. It's not like putting RAM into a PC where you have to put it in and you press down. This thing has plastic connectors and it literally just sits. It's very easy to install. One of the great things about the MiSTer is everything is completely modular. This
Yeah.
thing was made. A lot of people forget this thing was not made to play old computer games. This is an industrial computer, that's meant to do lots of like business and coding type things. Okay.
Yeah.
Another thing you don't need, and trust me, this is going to make people mad, but you can look it up.
All right.
The CPU in this is rated to run without cooling up to 100 degrees. Okay.
Yeah.
When you're maxing this thing out with old computers, it runs at 50 degrees. You don't need a fan. You
Really?
don't need a heat sink.
What if you're playing like
It
a
comes
Neo
with a
Geo or
plastic
something?
case right from the factory. It
Yeah.
comes with a plastic case that doesn't allow you to put one on there. Okay. It wouldn't come like this if they thought you needed one. Okay.
Yeah.
I've ran this thing pretty much nonstop since I've gotten it. It's fine. Okay. Now, there are people out there that say, well, if you don't get one, you'll shorten the life of your unit.
Yeah.
Maybe that's true. Maybe it'll only last 3 years instead of 5. I'm guessing within 5 years, the MiSTer 2 is going to come out and everybody's going to jump ship because the same thing that happened to the Mist is going to happen to the MiSTer.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen is all the development is going to leave the MiSTer side and it's going to all go over to the MiSTer 2 side and everybody's going to want to upgrade anyway. So it's fine. It's also $135, okay?
For the next
So-
one, I think they should, instead of MiSTer 2, I would go with the MiSTer, but that's just me.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Carry
so-
A.
The next thing, why do I like this thing? Okay. You and I both have endless ways to emulate old computers and old video game systems. Everything from the PC to the Raspberry Pi to the original Xbox. Everything we've got can emulate. What this thing does is it boots almost instantly. This thing literally boots in less than 5 seconds. Okay.
Yeah.
It boots directly to a plain text menu with folders and subdirectories. You've got a computers folder and a consoles folder and an arcade folder. Okay, that's it. You go in there and you pick your computer and then you run it. You run that core. When you run the core, it's just like starting up the computer. Okay, there's no fancy animations. There's no fading out and fading in. There's none of that stuff. You boot the core and then you press the menu button and then you select the disk that you want to run or the hard drive image or whatever it is. And then you reset it. You can save it. If you're mounting a hard disk image that you're always going to want, you can save the core. You can save sort of like the state and then reboot your thing. And then boom, you're in. That's all you have to do. And then you are using the computer as if it is a computer.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're not messing around with any of the normal sort of baloney that you have when you're using emulators. Okay. The speed at which you can rotate through these cores is unbelievable because at any time while you're playing, you press the menu button. Like I use a PS4 stick.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got the PlayStation button mapped to the button that takes you to the menu. You hit the PlayStation button, it takes you to the menu. You can switch out of the core. You can switch your game. You can do whatever you want to do. Okay. Now, how do I connect this thing? This is another thing that I already had at home. Okay. Instead of the $50 USB adapter, I have this OTG cable that branches off into 4 USB ports.
Yeah.
Okay. I originally bought this for my SNES Classic because this is also used with the SNES Classic. This allows me to connect my mouse and keyboard wirelessly and my 8-bit DOE wireless adapter. Guess how much configuration I had to do with any of this stuff? None. It all just worked.
That's
all
rare
just
for you. Because your
Yes.
luck usually means any of the simplest item requires baloney. So you've
Exactly.
been very fortunate, Bo.
Exactly. So for basically, I paid I think it was 135 for the DE10 Nano board, which came with the case, and I paid I think $60, including shipping for the RAM.
Yeah.
After tax and everything and shipping, because I did have to pay from DigiKey, it was like $205 total. Okay, that gets you now. If you don't already have a USB hub, you're going to have to buy a USB hub. But at this point in our lives, if you are into the scene at all, if you're a MiSTer protege, chances are you're going to have an old USB 2.0 hub laying around.
Yes.
Now, the downsides is that this thing is not protected at all. This is, it's an acrylic case on top. It's the bare circuit board on the bottom.
Right.
So if you're moving things around a lot while you're playing, there's a danger that you can short the board or something like that. If you put this thing in a case, you can carry it with you. You can throw it in a backpack. You don't have to worry about it.
Right.
For me, the MiSTer is going to stay directly underneath my monitor at all times. Okay, so I don't need to worry about that. And of course, the other downside of doing things in this way is that it's not all one package. The MiSTer as a unit, if you buy the $400 package that has the I/O board and the USB hub all combined, then it looks cool. It's all one discrete unit, and I get that. I get that people like that. So I'm not saying that if you want to go out and get that you're dumb. I'm just saying that if you are El Cheapo like me, then it's a better thing to do.
Bart said this is the point where you put it in a shoebox.
Yeah, exactly. So you
can 3D print a gimmick for these things, can't you, Bo? If you're that kind of guy.
There are all kinds of things that you can 3D print, but again, because this thing came out of the factory with a case, I don't see the need. Now, how hard was this thing to get going? Flack sent me a couple GitHub pages, and there's nothing shady about anything that I'm going to tell you about. Okay. So there are a couple GitHub repositories where you download a thing called the MiSTer Updater. Okay. You put that on the SD card, and then you connect the MiSTer to your Ethernet through the Ethernet port, and then it automatically updates and gives you all the directories. So all you have to do at that point is just drag and drop. You pop the SD card back out, put it back in your computer. This isn't like the Pi where you have to do Linux shenanigans. This is a real computer.
I hate those shenanigans.
You put the SD card back in your computer. All the directories are there. You drag and drop all your collections into the directories, and that's it. That's the end.
So not too bad, then, eh?
Not too bad. I was up and running. I played the first thing that I wanted to do. What's my holy grail computer, Aaron?
Coleco Atom.
The Acorn Archimedes.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. We've talked about the Archimedes nonstop
cool
since we started Amigos. The first thing I did was load up Archie. I found I think was somebody posted in the Discord a hard drive image for the Acorn. I popped that in there. I mounted, I loaded the core. I mounted the hard drive image, and boom, right there, I had the desktop. I double clicked on it. The games were all there. I was good to go. I was playing Gods. I'm still not crazy about Gods, but it was still fun.
It
was
great,
still fun.
By the way.
Yeah.
The picture you sent me.
So, now I've told you about the MiSTer. Now, say you're watching this and you are curious about another FPGA option that might be a little bit more Amiga centric, the UnAmiga. Aaron, tell us about the UnAmiga and how it's played a part in your life.
Well, I mean, that's one way to put it. It's played a part in my life, all right. The UnAmiga, I can't talk on this like you did, and there's a reason for that. For those that aren't in the know, the UnAmiga is done by a fellow in Spain named Eduardo, and it's a very limited run device. There was one round of the UnAmiga before I got in. Then I got in at the 1.4s, and there's a new round coming out, or that came out after mine. And then the next round after that are going to be UnAmigas that fit in the real snazzy case, the Checkmate spin-off case that's coming out. They're going to be specially designed for that. And the two most recent Amigas are superior to the other two, which are far more inferior. The one I've got, when I got it, of course, if you wanted the full scoop, I did a video on what I had to do to get it running. But I had to do there were some physical problems with the board that I had to repair. But I'm not going to go back into that. But once I repaired them, it worked great. And I've used the UnAmiga since I got it. I've used it for streaming and for everything. It's been great. Edu offered a upgrade to the UnAmiga that would allow me to use very limited FPGA core stuff, which were included the MSX, the C64, the ZX Next, the NES, and an updated UnAmiga core. I think that's everything. And when I got this, I had more trouble. And so it took me a while to come to grips with it. But through a lot of suffering and through also some help from Edu, I will say the guy's a stand-up guy. He has gotten me to the point where I can have figured out how to get the MSX and the ZX Next working with a butt. Now, the butt on this is some of these cores they work, but they're not ready for prime time. The C64 core is real. I mean, it gives you a C64 with no frills. That means no fast load cartridge at all. So anything you load, even off SD card, loads in real time, which is not fun if you've ever loaded anything on a C64. The NES core is in Spanish, and I have had trouble outputting it. One thing about the unlike the MiSTer, the UnAmiga outputs the VGA with a 15 or 30 hertz output, and it's a real difficult thing to grab from with a capture device, among other things. Plus,
how did you end up doing it at the end of the day? Because you figured it out.
Yeah, it's called Rushi, who sent me the open source scan converter, which I had to I've updated to say 2 or 3 times to get to the point where I can actually capture from the Amiga. So thumbs up to Rushi, who's a heck of a guy. He really set us up with the OSSC. But I've got the Amiga running to the OSSC and then running into my Elgato, the classic Elgato HDMI. And it works, but again, it's a little. Some of the cores, particularly the NES cores, are when it gets me trouble. I just can't. It's not a stable signal, and my monitor doesn't work on it for whatever reason. So, would I recommend the Amiga for Amiga stuff? Absolutely, I would. It works great for that. Would I recommend it for anything else? Probably not. And the reason I say that is, the truth of the matter is, the next core only supports half the RAM it was supposed to. It was supposed to give me a full 512, I think it was, and I've ended up getting half that. I think it might have been doubled. I think it's supposed to be 1024, and I got half that. And so when I load up the core, I can't load any of the next stuff, because unfortunately the next stuff, it doesn't. It needs a lot of the newer stuff won't work because I don't have enough memory. So if you watch my UnAmiga stream last week and you saw me trying to run actual cores or actual next software, the reason I couldn't run it was specifically because I didn't have enough memory, which I found out after the fact. I had some people email me, and they said, hey, we looked at the amount of memory you had. It was wrong, and they were right. And I talked to Edu, and it turns out he had mentioned this in an email to me back before I got the board, but I didn't know what it meant at the time because I'd never used it, is that this thing was at half memory, and it wasn't. So I can't really, it doesn't have the functionality of a Next. Like, I also can't up the speed like a Next could. I can't there's a lot of stuff I can't do. But what I can do is run ZX Spectrum games and ZX81 games, which is the number one thing I wanted to do. So right. I don't have any problem with that. There were some other problems. I tried to mount it my Amiga 500 case, and the screw holes were wrong. So that was an ordeal in itself, which Doug ended up mounting this thing to the back of his monitor. I've got mine mounted right here beside me to this shelf. It's literally just flush with the shelf. So I don't even have mine in a system. This is all sort of irrelevant because the truth of the matter is no more of these will ever be sold. And from what Edu told me, when he sent everyone that bought an UnAmiga, he sent them all the possibility of getting the new card. And the truth of the matter is only 14 people took him up on it, and I was one of those, and Doug was one. So we know for sure that 2 of the 14 were me and Doug. I would say a good chunk of those guys were Spanish. And up to this point, with the exception of the 2-minute video that Edu made showing that these could do MSX or ZX, there hasn't been anyone else that's done any videos on that functionality in the UnAmiga. So I'm literally early adopter, and you have to sort of play the hand you're dealt.
Right.
But I've worked on this thing so much that it's sort of endeared itself to me because you know me, I like to fix crap. And this thing really is an outstanding piece of hardware when everything's functional. Production stuff during the pandemic, I'm going to cut the guy some slack on all this stuff because it's hard. And you're sending this stuff away. I doubt he did all the soldering and stuff himself. And Edu has been a stand-up guy the whole way. He's offered to take this thing back multiple times. And he's worked with me every step of the way, including he's talked to me about having his guy make me up my own personal Next core that will let me use the speed-ups. They've gotten that part fixed in like future versions. The new UnAmigas support stuff like the Atari 8-bits.
Oh.
Yeah, they've got a lot more functionality than I've got. So a lot more cores, a lot more. They're much more like a MiSTer than this thing is. Now, are they a MiSTer? No. And I don't know what the new ones are going to cost in that fancy case. But if you're getting, I mean, what you just told me, you landed yourself a MiSTer and with all the trimmings for around $200. You're probably going to be more into this when push comes to shove. But I can tell you that as an Amiga, this thing is tippity top shelf. It never gives me any troubles, and it's stable as hell.
Right.
And I do like that. It gives you the ability to use to mount 2 hard drives plus discs. So there, again, the MiSTer, I'm sure, does all these things as well. But I can't complain. Hey, at the end of the day, I figure it's a unique board that not very many people have. Plus, it's got my name on it, so I can't complain about it.
Yeah, and you can't undersell the fact that the UnAmiga fits in an Amiga 500 case. So if you want to have that,
yeah, it sort of does. Like I said, that was the problem. If you can see right here in my video, I couldn't mount this in the case. I had to use the metal bracketing to mount this thing, and what that meant I had to do was basically kind of do some sketchy tech on the back.
Here we go.
Get the ports to fit. I mean, I didn't have a choice.
Yeah, oh yeah.
This would not, and you can look at Doug's video too, this won't fit in an Amiga 1000, it won't fit in an Amiga 1000. It won't fit in an Amiga 500 case or in a Checkmate case without modifications.
And again, it's probably just like you said, this is the curse of the early adopter, because Duncan says that he bought a later UnAmiga and it did fit, the holes did line up and everything.
But we contacted him, me and Doug both. We're like, what's going on here? And there was very little to go on. There's a much bigger community with the UnAmiga now than there was. There's not very many of us with this one, but for a all tech, little foibles aside, it's a brilliant piece of tech, and this guy's a genius. So I'm going to give him all the credit. And anyone that wants to check him out, he's always got all kinds of crazy gear for sale, Bode, as you know. So there's always some kind of nutty stuff you can get into. But yeah, so it is what it is. But I don't have a problem with it. I'm pretty happy with the thing. Let me ask you a quick question, getting back to the MiSTer, because I saw some people talk about this in the chat. I'm assuming you say it doesn't run hot. How big a hassle is it to put a fan or a heatsink on it? Would it be a big deal?
Well, a heat sink, probably not. And I'll probably end up putting a heat sink on there because heat sinks are cheap.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of putting on fans when they're not necessary because they're loud and they annoy me, and and I just don't want to have one if I don't have to have one. But a heat sink is unobtrusive. I could slide it under the existing case. One of the things that I read when I was doing research about why people have problems is that a big part of the heat that's generated in this happens because everybody slaps one of these things in an enclosed case. And if you look at the case as it was sent to me from DigiKey, it's open on the side. So there is airflow coming in and going out from the case. Now, like I said, I'll probably end up putting a heat sink on here because they are so cheap, and it just, there's no real reason not to put one on there.
Yeah.
I will also say that you do get LEDs. A big part of that I/O board is that you get LEDs, but there's already LEDs on the board that show you hard disk activity and things like that. So, but it is covered up if you have the I/O board on there, so you do need additional LEDs. I have not run into any situation where the hardware buttons have been necessary because that I've got that button mapped to the thing.
Yeah.
If things really go south,
Flax says. Yeah.
Yeah, if things really go south on you and for some reason that button doesn't work, then I'll just flip it off and flip it back on. I'll just reset the unit. So, like I said, I'm, for not having this very long, I'm very impressed with every aspect of this. It seems like the emulate, and I'm going to say emulation, fine, whatever. It's the emulation device that I've always wanted. It's something compact that can run all of the old computers. Let's be honest, emulating a Nintendo is not a hard task. And if all you want to do is emulate console stuff, you get a Raspberry Pi. But if you want to get into the weeds with the Jupiter Ace, and things like that.
Even the machine we're running this week is on there, and I'm having a heck of a time emulating it, the Video Brain. So that right there would save me a bunch of trouble.
Right. So this is what you want to get. This is what you want to get. And like I said, if you want to go all out and get the $400 setup, then it's going to give you everything you want in one attractive package. But if you don't want to spend the extra $200, you can get by with around a $200 setup that gets you everything that you need to get going.
Once of course, now you also have to buy an SD card. That's going to cost you a few bucks.
Right.
But one thing about buying a Raspberry Pi, as great as they are, by the time you get the accoutrement you need and the card and everything and the shipping, because the shipping on those things are just murder.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate the shipping. You can only get them from a few places,
Right.
and you end up getting up there where it makes this not that a huge difference.
It's really not. By the time you get the Pi, the power supply, the case, you're talking, because the Pi by itself, like a Pi 4 or whatever is like $50, and then you get the other stuff. I mean, we're still talking about probably half the price of a Raspberry Pi, but if you spend that extra, $100, you get something that is going to give you, I don't know. I'm not a big fan. I've downloaded a ton of images from Arcade Punks or whatever, and I've tried building my own, all that stuff. The fact that it's so hard for me to get things going because of the whole Linux aspect, the way I can just pop out the SD card, pop it into my PC and drag and drop, disk images or ROMs or whatever, pop it back in and it works. That's worth the extra money to me.
Yeah, it is. Now, what power is this? It came with a power core, is that right?
So this comes with I did buy an extra little thing. This comes with a regular barrel-shaped power supply.
Yeah.
Now, what I did was I did go on Amazon and I spent $4.99 for a 2-pack of switches.
Oh yeah, I got
this.
Those.
Is a switching power supply, and so I am able to switch it and unswitch it. Graham was talking in the chat about the OTG port being a little bit flimsy, and he's not wrong. This OTG port, there have been a lot of people that have experienced, mishaps because of frequent plugging and unplugging.
Yeah, yeah.
But the thing is, you plug this into a hub, and then you never unplug it again. There's no need to ever unplug it unless you're being portable. And like I said, if this is going to be a portable solution for you, where you're going to be bringing it over to your friend's house and stuff like that, definitely get the I/O board, get the full setup, and get the case. You're going to be much better served. But if this thing is just going to sit on your desk forever and always, then you don't need it.
I will say, if you're thinking about going down this road, and I'm not going to lie, I occasionally ponder it myself. Just some good stuff to check out would be Neil from our Retro Man, RMC. He did a show on this. It was really good. A couple shows, I think. Also, Rob Flack O'Hara, just in the past 2 months, did a You Don't Know Flack about his experiences with the MiSTer that was really good. I believe that didn't someone do an article on Everything Amiga about the MiSTer? I may be crazy here, but so there's some good stuff out there just from people that you know and trust. A lot of the people, of course, if you're in our Discord, we've got a MiSTer section. People in there are very helpful and will help you answer your questions and help you know what you need to get. They helped you, didn't they, Boat? Boat didn't just wander in the wilderness. He's not an idiot. We don't have that kind of jack, do we, Boat? We got to get help.
Yeah, but it was, Flack sort of got me going with this thing, and then Hermsky posted the link. I can't thank Hermsky enough, because I could have overpaid and got a lot less by going through the eBay route or whatever and just going right from DigiKey. I highly recommend it. The shipping was fast.
Yeah.
It was extremely well packaged. These guys are professionals because they're in the electronics business.
Yeah,
so.
And let's not forget Frodo. He uses the MiSTer for all of his streams. We've seen him enviously.
Frodo was a huge inspiration, definitely.
We watched him do this. Of course, Graham also he's one of the first guys that I knew that really that went all in.
I think he was the first person in our Discord that had a MiSTer.
So we got Graham W. Vebke. He also did. Now he did it. I know he did. Graham, you wrote something up on it, as I recall. But if Graham basically got rid of the majority of his real life hardware and just went all in with the MiSTer, and I don't think he has any regrets, frankly. So I think it's neat. Well, there you go. Food for thought. The UnAmiga is more of a museum piece, I guess, than anything else. The MiSTer is the real McCoy there. If it meets your needs and you're okay with going the whole FPGA route, I think that that might be the way to go, Boat.
Yeah. So
Graham,
I will certainly if I do run into problems, I will certainly be vocal about those. And also, you can expect a lot more, different content from me. Streaming different games or talking about, what's going on with the Mister. I'm super excited. I was talking about this on my stream when I was streaming DuckTales. Is that part of the thing that's cool about it is the fact that there is such a not loyal, but like it's such a rabid community around the Mister as a project. So many people are developing cores, and it's always fun to kind of be at the forefront of something like that. You're involved, and you're seeing all the new things that are coming out. And as somebody that grew up with always never having the latest and greatest thing, that thrill has never really gone away from me whenever I am at the cusp of a new movement. And this really is, I really feel like it is the future of retro, are these FPGA like devices, whether it's the Mister or not. This is just it's such a cool time to be into this stuff.
Let me ask you one question. We can go out on this, and there's no wrong answer here, but I think I know your answer. Because you've been like me, we have no problem with emulation, all right? And the Mister happens to be FPGA. What is the number one selling point of the Mister to you? And I think I know what it is, and I think what the answer is going to be is the ease of accessibility to your stuff. That's
right.
It?
Some people might call it the EOU, Aaron.
Right. Oh, wow, very good. But I mean, how much we've never really given too much of a crap about emulation versus FPGA. So you're one of those unique people that probably got into this thing on the basis of its convenience more than the actual simulation of hardware.
I've never been somebody that's been gaming on a Raspberry Pi and complained about the accuracy, or complained about the latency. That stuff doesn't bother me.
No.
But what does bother me is not being able to get out of a game and get into a different game on a different system quickly. Yeah. And this thing delivers.
Plus, there's the advantage of being able to capture from it, as opposed to the menagerie of chords and insanity that I've got sitting over here. You can actually get rid of almost everything and just run it directly into your computer, that must be nice as well.
Well, yeah, and what I've essentially done here is I've bought an HDMI switcher, and I'll just switch between the Mister and my computer on my main monitor, and so I like I said, it's going to be a great setup. That hasn't arrived yet, but I'm really looking forward to getting it all going.
Very good, Boat. Very good. I learned a lot. Thank you, my friend.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.
Adios.
Yep. Adios.